quickly, we have to rush to the NDC's, oh George. The NDC's headquarters, they are having a presser now.
Friends from the media, the NDC's message of hope that we present to Ghanaians is backed by a solid record of delivery. Today, the Ghanaian people have seen the difference between the two leaders who are gunning for the position of president. President John Dramani Mahama on the one hand, who is being celebrated as a nation builder and a man of his word, as against President Akufo-Addo, who is fast being swept into oblivion for supervising 4 years of lawlessness, vindictiveness, deception, divisiveness, corruption, nepotism, and unfulfilled promises. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the biggest challenge facing our dear nation today is undoubtedly high unemployment. The NDC is deeply concerned about the high levels of unemployment in the country, which we consider a national security threat and a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. The goal of the next NDC Mahama government is to create shared prosperity for all and not a select few by creating enough sustainable jobs that pay well to avoid the problem of working poor, where workers' wages are so low that they cannot meet the basic necessities of life and remain poor even though they are working. We are committed to the creation of sustainable jobs for the Ghanaian people because we are fully aware that the youth and people of this country deserve decent employment to be able to afford a decent living for themselves and their families. This is what informed the theme of the People's Manifesto, which is, quote, jobs and prosperity for all, unquote. Our vision, that is the vision of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the nation builder for jobs, dubbed Ejumapa, is a solemn pledge that will focus on creating 1 million permanent jobs with decent wages in 4 years. To achieve this, the next NDC Mahama government will create a minimum of 250,000 jobs with decent wages every year over the next 4 years. This will translate into a total of minimum 1 million sustainable, or if you like, permanent jobs, and not ad hoc jobs in 4 years. So you've heard the vision of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC already relative to jobs. And it is very simple and short. Unemployment is a national security threat to this country, and like I said, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. And that is why President Mahama has committed himself that when elected, his government would deal with this problem head on and resolve it once and for all by providing a minimum of 1 million permanent and sustainable jobs, minimum 250,000 jobs every year to deal with the high unemployment challenge which has been confronting this country for years. Distinguished friends from the media, the NDC's agenda for jobs will be science-driven while embracing critical reforms to create job opportunities that hitherto did not exist for our countrymen and women. Many a times when you talk about Agenda 1 million jobs, the question you get is, how are you going to create these jobs? Where will the jobs come from? And how do you intend to fund these jobs? So today we are going to explain in detail how we are going to create these jobs, where the jobs will come from, what types of jobs are we talking about, and how do we intend to fund these jobs so that through you, the people of this country can appreciate that when we talk about Agenda 1 million jobs, it is a well thought out policy or program or vision that we intend to keep. It is not meant for electoral votes, but we've done the analysis and we know exactly how we are going to create these jobs when elected. And so, like I said, this job creation agenda will be science-driven while embracing critical reforms to create job opportunities that hitherto did not exist for our countrymen and women. And by employment reforms, what are we talking about? As a first step, soon after we are ushered into office, we shall pass the first of its kind in our nation's history, an Employment Act, to provide a comprehensive framework for job creation and labor market statistics. 2, we will create a 3-shift economy. Given Ghana's small market size of only 31 million people and a per capita income of $2,200, we intend to embark on an aggressive promotion of exports, which will lead to a high demand for labor to meet increased production for both the domestic market and exports. To accommodate this anticipated demand for Ghanaian goods and services, the next NDC government will create a 3-shift economy, especially in manufacturing and other high-end services, which operates 24 hours non-stop. Thus, the additional 2 shifts will be a source of additional employment for the people of this country. Companies that currently operate 24 hours with only 2 shifts of 12 hours each in violation of the labor law, which specifies a maximum of 8 hours. These companies will be required to run 3 shifts and thus create a third stream of jobs. Now, still under employment reforms, number 3, we shall decentralize and convert the labor office into the National Employment Bureau, equipped with state-of-the-art facilities, and grant tax waivers to employers who employ workers through the Bureau. And so, 3 reforms: an Employment Act, which will provide a comprehensive framework for job creation and labor market statistics. Second, a 3-shift economy that will operate 24 hours non-stop, and I've explained to you how we're going to do that. And a conversion of our labor office, which is not working at the moment, into the National Employment Bureau, which will be equipped with state-of-the-art facilities and will grant tax waivers to employers who employ workers through the Bureau. These are the novel reforms that the next NDC Mahama government will introduce as part of our agenda to create a minimum of 1 million permanent jobs with decent wages. So what are the sources of these Agenda 1 million jobs we are talking about? Where will these jobs come from? Distinguished friends from the media, contrary to claims by our opponents who have failed to deliver on their promises, the NDC has done all the needed research and analysis relative to this massive job creation agenda. We understand clearly how these jobs will be created and where the jobs will come from. And Ghanaians can trust His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman to deliver a minimum of 1 million sustainable jobs when elected. This we will do by 1, stimulating sustainable private sector jobs. Our plan, ladies and gentlemen of the media, is to stimulate the creation of sustainable jobs by creating an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. We all know that the private sector is the engine of growth. And so to create sustainable jobs, we would have to stimulate the creation or to stimulate the growth of the private sector. One of the things we will do to achieve this is to significantly reduce the cost of doing business in Ghana through tax cuts, so that businesses are able to plow back their savings into their businesses, expand, and create sustainable and meaningful jobs. As you may be aware, Ghana's continuous decline on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index under the Akufo-Addo government is mainly as a result of high tax payments. The Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, and other bodies have had cause to lament the crippling effect of high tax payments on their businesses under this insensitive Akufo-Addo government. This is why the next NDC government will provide tax rebates, tax cuts for businesses, such as 1, a total scrapping of the 25% corporate income tax for small businesses. 2, a reduction of corporate income tax for medium-scale businesses from 25% to 15%. 3, a 2-year corporate income tax exemption for newly incorporated medium-scale businesses that employ 20 people and above. 4, a 2-year tax holiday for youth startups and businesses. 5, a reversion of the increment in VAT that the Akufo-Addo government has introduced through the back door, which has made it impossible for businesses to claim input tax credit or refunds on 5% national health insurance levy and get fund levies put together. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the tax incentives that we will be providing the private sector to ensure that we reduce the cost of doing business and help them inject these savings into their businesses, expand and create jobs. You know that this government promised to reduce the corporate income tax from 25% to 20%. Yet in 4 years, they have failed to do so. President Mahama is not promising to reduce corporate income tax from 25% to 20%, no. He's promising to scrap it completely for small businesses. They won't pay corporate income tax under the next NDC Mahama government. Medium businesses, businesses which employ 20 people and above, which are already existing, will pay 15% corporate income tax rather than the 25% they are paying now. But newly incorporated medium businesses, in other words, if you are going to incorporate a business which will employ 20 people and above, you will not pay any corporate income tax for the next 2 years under the next NDC Mahama government. Again, youth startups and businesses, I'm emphasizing these points because they are very critical. Any business opened by a young person under the next NDC Mahama government will not pay taxes for a period of 2 years. That is what we mean by a 2-year tax holiday for youth startups and businesses. And again, you know that this government has increased VAT through the back door by making the NHIL and the GET fund strict taxes instead of ad valorem. That has increased VAT. AGI has been complaining, businesses have been complaining. President Mahama is again promising to scrap that. But not just that, ladies and gentlemen. The next NDC government will scrap import duty on commercial vehicles and vehicles and equipment imported into the country for agriculture or agribusiness or industrial purposes. We believe that this nation has a great potential in the agricultural sector and also permanent and dignifying, well-paying jobs for our people. That's the area we need to look at. But those engaged in there are struggling because of high tax payments and the high import duty they pay on equipment they bring into this country. Those in the transport sector are also
NDC's Sami Jenfi, he's communications officer with the main opposition party in this country, basically addressing the media, giving more details on some promises made by the campaign team or the NDC and the team of John Dramani Mahama, who is their flag bearer. He's just been explaining some of them just before we lost the feed there. He was explaining corporate income tax being scrapped for small businesses and 15% for existing medium scale businesses, and they're paying 25% at the moment, but the NDC is saying that when they come into office, medium scale businesses will be paying 15%, and those are for existing ones. New ones will not pay any corporate income tax at all for the first 2 years of their government. That is, if they voted into power. Earlier, he spoke about employment and said that their target is to create a minimum of 250,000 jobs every year in the next 4 years. Cumulatively, that means a minimum of 1 million jobs being promised by the NDC for the next 4 years. And they say they hope to create more sustainable jobs, and they will pass an Employment Act and also set a 3-shift economy in motion. And they also say they will create and make a National Employment Bureau very functional. And he claims that they've done all the research and analysis, and they will sustain or create the jobs by stimulating a sustainable private sector that will create sustainable jobs. And also he's mentioned tax cuts to reduce the cost of doing business for these private sector jobs. And so hopefully we'll be able to establish a good line and take you back to the NDC's press conference there. And every week, we know for some time they've been doing that. We're working on the line shortly. We'll take you live when it's ready. Thank you for staying on the JoyNews channel. Thankfully, we've gotten that feedback as the 14th edition of the NDC's weekly press briefing being addressed by Communications Officer Sami Jemfi.
17.3% of his wealth. What this means is that majority of our population are wallowing in abject poverty. The vision of the NDC is to rapidly transform agriculture through modernization and mechanization, with key focus on agribusinesses as a means of creating sustainable jobs to liberate our people from poverty. Our policies in this area will be anchored on the following. Number one, we will increase local production of cereal crops, starchy stable legumes, vegetables, and other food products through agric mechanization and modernization, predicated on the reintroduction of the agric mechanization centers that we established in 2016 under the ex-Wal NDC Mahama government. Again, we will increase the local processing of our local produce into secondary products through agribusinesses. We will create agro-production and processing zones in all major crop-producing areas across the country to provide farming, processing, and marketing assistance to farmers in these zones. And so the NDC is not promising one district, one factory. Our alternative is different. We are talking about the establishment of agro-production and processing zones across the country, especially in major crop-producing areas. And so for an area like Bunu East, where the main crop produced there is cashew, there will be an agro-production and processing zone for cashew, where there is a mechanization center and farmers can access equipment and logistics they need, to expand their farms and produce more. Where there will be, we will provide them with cheaper credits so that those who want to go into large-scale farming can go into that. And as part of that, help them market their produce, which includes the processing of their cashew. And so they are going to have, apart from the cashew marketing board, which will be established, they are going to have a factory to process the cashew they produce in that area. We will have the same arrangement for cocoa growing areas and other, parts of the country. A place like Akomadan will have an agro-production and processing zone, which will focus on factories, strategic factories for the processing of tomatoes, because that is what that area is known for. So this is what we are seeking to do, not to just, hide behind an empty slogan of 1D, 1F, when in reality, there is nothing like that on the ground. But we are going to deliver strategic factories in these agro-production and processing zones that I've spoken about across the country, which will not only process what we produce, add value, increase our foreign exchange earnings, but also create sustainable and permanent jobs. The medium-term effects of these policies will place Ghana on the path of self-sufficiency in the production of commodities and the possibility of excess for exports. It will stimulate economic growth and create opportunities for sustainable jobs in the agri value chain. This we believe, or this we will do with special focus on the establishment of strategic factories for the processing of tree crops such as cocoa, cashew, shea, palm, and rubber. This value addition activity will help boost the income of farmers, increase the country's foreign exchange earnings, and create thousands of sustainable jobs for Ghanaians through industrialization, like I've already explained. Now, the pharmaceuticals industry. Another area of focus in the private sector for the NDC's job agenda is the pharmaceutical industry. Under the actual NDC Mahama government, we supported local pharmaceutical industries with stimulus package of $27 million to boost the local pharmaceutical industry and increase their market share. Ghanaian indigenous pharmaceutical companies such as Entrance Pharmaceuticals, also known as Tobinco, was given $6 million under this facility. NS Chemists got $10 million under this facility. Danex got $3 million under this facility. Dan Adams got $7 million under this facility. And Kina Pharma got 9.152 million Ghana cedis under this facility. This is the first time, was the first time any government was doing something like that for the pharmaceutical industry since 1992. Now, this stimulus helped to increase local production of pharmaceuticals and created sustainable jobs for many. Now, looking to the future, as part of our job creation, to it. The rationale is to ensure that we conform to internationally acceptable standards while guaranteeing productivity within the public sector. So that is our job creation vision or plan for public sector jobs. We've spoken about private sector, and we've given you where the jobs will be coming from relative to the public sector. So we've done all the analysis like I've said. We've realized that per the globally accepted standards, we will need more policemen. We know the specific numbers. More military officers. We know the specific numbers. Same for the immigration. Same for the Ghana Prison Service. Same for the local government service. Same for NCC. Same for GES. So we have a clear idea how many public sector jobs we will be creating in the next 4 years and how many private sector jobs we will be creating. And so if anyone tells you that, oh, they've just said 1 million jobs, they've not told us how the jobs will be created, where the jobs will come from, and all that, that person, obviously, it may not be abreast with these facts, which we are taking the time to explain today. But beyond private sector jobs and public sector jobs, ladies and gentlemen of the media, is the issue of skill development, which is very critical to the creation of jobs in any country. And we have skill development programs and initiatives in the People's Manifesto, which will create sustainable jobs. Aside our 1 million jobs agenda, ladies and gentlemen, the next NDC Mahama government shall aggressively pursue skill development programs to equip our human resource capital with employable skills as a means of addressing the high unemployment problem confronting our dear nation. So these skill development programs I'm coming to outline are not necessarily under the agenda 1 million jobs, but they will also create jobs. Let's understand it in that context. Our skills development program will be anchored on 1, free technical and vocational education. what is called free TVET. The next NDC government in January 2021 shall introduce free technical and vocational education at both the secondary and tertiary levels. It is important to state that currently there is no free TVET at the tertiary level. That is the polytechnic level, now technical universities level. Even at the senior high school level, majority of TVET schools like NVTI, like technical and vocational schools under the Ministry of Labor and Employment, are not benefiting from free SHS. This policy of free TVET, which President Mahama will introduce in January 2021, will ensure that any Ghanaian who is desirous of pursuing a vocational or technical course gets the opportunity to do so without paying a peswa, both at the secondary level and at the tertiary, that is the polytechnic or technical university level. 2, our skill development initiatives will be anchored on the National Apprenticeship Program, and this is a game changer. The next NDC Mahama government will roll out a National Apprenticeship Program that will create many sustainable jobs for Ghanaians. Under this policy, any Ghanaian desirous to learn a craft will be enrolled into a training program as an apprentice under a registered master craftsperson for free by government. These apprentices will be paid stipends to support their feeding, transportation, among others, and they will be given a certificate upon the successful completion of their program. Finally, government will set them up with the necessary toolkits upon successful completion of the apprenticeship program to start their own businesses and employ others. These skills development programs will build the productive capacities and enhance the employability of young people to be able to create their own jobs and employ other people. So that is skill development. Now, what about youth development? What specific policies do we have for the youth? Apart from what we are doing for the private sector, pharmaceuticals, light manufacturing, agriculture and agri-businesses, cheap credits, tax incentives, apart from the public sector jobs, what specific policies do we have to deal with youth unemployment? Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the NDC is committed to prioritizing youth development through various youth empowerment and entrepreneurship programs and policies. We take cognizance of the growing disappointment and frustration among the youth as a result of high unemployment in the country, which has been worsened by the ill-conceived and vindictive and politically motivated actions of the Akufo-Addo administration that have collapsed many businesses and jobs. The next NDC government will harness the potential of our youth by implementing comprehensive, multifaceted, and innovative programs that will create sustainable jobs with decent wages for the youth. These will include, number 1, the establishment of the Youth Entrepreneurs Development Program to support young entrepreneurs with technical and financial startups to expand their businesses with 0% interest. So under the Youth Entrepreneurs Development Program, YEDEP, under the next NDC Mahama government, we are going to provide youth startups with technical and financial assistance without it attracting interest. Number 2, another game changer, is the 1 million coders program, which will provide free training to 1 million youth in order to equip them with knowledge and skills for coding and programming, web developing, apps development, among others. The 1 million coders policy is an innovative initiative designed to project Ghana into the limelight of the digital economy by placing focus on coding. The support from government in partnership with the private sector to unlock the potential of about 1 million young people whose ideas will be facilitated through coding. Via this vehicle, We will have relevant responses to local and global challenges, as our coders will learn how to harness their skills to improve their livelihoods. They will also become competitive by being available to multinationals who are already hiring our people with these skills. Number 3, we will develop the Youth Enterprise Tax Waiver Policy to grant a 2-year tax holiday for youth startups and businesses. Number 4, we will extend training and startup kits for artisans in each district across the country based on the less debt model. So there are those who are not seeking employable skills. So for them, they are not ready to go to school for free TVET. And they are not ready to enroll as apprentices under the National Apprenticeship Program. They already have the skills. They are carpenters, they are masons, they are welders, and artisans, name it. But they don't have the funds and the money to expand their businesses. We are bringing back the less debt model, where we are going to set these people up with the necessary toolkits for them to create their businesses. These and several other initiatives will be implemented to generate decent and well-paid jobs for our teeming unemployed youth. So the question is, what happens to NAPCO beneficiaries? Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the next NDC government will integrate all persons currently engaged on ad hoc basis under the Nation Builders Call into the public sector and make them permanent employees. We will change the remuneration of NAPCO beneficiaries from the current pittance allowances of 700 Ghana cedis to decent wages that offer these young ones a decent living. NAPCO recruits can rest assured that under President John Dramani Mahama, they will have permanent jobs. They will not be laid off after their 3-year contract expires. They will be integrated into the mainstream public sector as permanent workers, and they will be paid decent wages, and their payments will come on time. That is the message we have for all NAPCO beneficiaries. Now finally, before I conclude, we've spoken about our vision, which is an agenda to create a minimum of 1 million permanent, well-paying jobs, called Ejumapa. We've said that every year we are going to create 250,000 jobs minimum as part of this agenda. We've explained to you the programs and initiatives we will undertake to create these jobs in the private sector. We've also explained to you the vacancies in the public sector and the number of jobs we'll be creating in the public sector. We've spoken to you about our youth-centered job creation measures. We've spoken to you about skill development and so many other initiatives. But the question I know most of you are thinking about now is, how would the NDC get the money to fund all these jobs? Where would the money come from? So before I conclude, I will deal with this issue, which is a very important issue. Friends from the Inky fraternity, we in the NDC are not oblivious of the huge financial commitment that comes with our ambitious job creation agenda. We are, however, convicted in our resolve to deliver on our pledge to create a minimum of 1 million sustainable jobs when elected, because, like I said, Ghanaians are in need of jobs for survival. And the issue of high unemployment, to us, is a national security threat and a ticking time bomb waiting to explode if nothing is done about it. And so even though we know that it will be a daunting task, President Mahama and the NDC are committed to delivering these 1 million sustainable jobs. Now, having done a critical analysis of our resource envelope vis-a-vis our public spending, we have identified key areas we can conserve resources and free up fiscal space to fund our policies and programs, including Ejumapa. To start with, we will reset government's spending priorities from consumption-related expenditures to capital and productive expenditures that will create jobs and prosperity for all. Also, we will cut down wasteful expenditures by reducing the number of ministers by at least 40 by at least 40, which will translate into a saving of 63.4 million Ghana cedis over 4 years. We also intend to reduce the number of presidential staffers by at least 200, thereby saving the public purse about 186 million Ghana cedis in 4 years. The microphone is not working. Please, do you have sound? Okay. More importantly, we shall employ advanced technology to enhance and maximize revenue mobilization by ensuring strict tax compliance, the expansion of the tax net, and efficient revenue mobilization. So we are not talking about the introduction of new taxes. We are just talking about tax compliance, expanding the tax net, and efficient revenue mobilization. No, please. I'm told that we had a... Do you have sound now? Okay. So more importantly, we shall employ advanced technology to enhance and maximize revenue mobilization by ensuring tax compliance, the expansion of the tax net, efficient revenue mobilization, like I've already explained. Under the e-Proceed GRA revenue monitoring project, which we'll be introducing, we project to generate at least 3 billion Ghana cedis on an annual basis to fund Ejumapa. We also intend to revise the tax waiver regime to make available 460 million to fund job-related initiatives. Additionally, we shall channel a greater percentage of our oil revenues, that is the annual budget funding amount, from our 3 oil fields into developmental and productive initiatives to create sustainable jobs for Ghanaians. These are but a few of the measures we intend to undertake to generate the needed revenue to fund our vision for jobs and other policies. And so let no one deceive you that Agenda 1 million jobs is not possible. It is very possible, and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the nation builder, will deliver these jobs when given the opportunity. So in conclusion, distinguished friends from the media, job creation will be the cardinal priority of the next NDC government. That is why the main plank of the People's Manifesto is jobs, jobs, and jobs. Our flagship 1 million jobs pledge, dubbed Ejumapa, is not one of the usual politicals, grandstanding, sloganeering that has become synonymous with our opponents in government today. On the contrary, Ejumapa is a product of deep soul searching in our bid to find answers to the age-old problem of graduate and youth unemployment that continues to plague our nation. It is our view that if our nation fails to harness the productive energies of young people to develop Ghana, our country may one day pay dearly for the misuse of these very productive potentials of our youth in ways that can hurt both present and future generations. It is for this reason that the nation builder, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and the NDC are making an appeal to the Ghanaian electorate to choose the real, concrete, and decent jobs that we are offering over the few ad hoc programs that the Akufo-Addo government has continuously trumpeted as achievements relative to job creation, such as NAPCO. To the millions of young people out there, to the millions of unemployed people in Ghana today, please don't despair. Please don't give up. There is hope for you in the People's Manifesto. President John Dramani Mahama and his able running mate, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, care about you. And so on 7th December, we appeal to you to vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC for 1 million permanent and decent, well-paid jobs. May God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long one because the issue of jobs is a very important issue. We've been talking about our vision for jobs, Agenda 1 million jobs, Agenda 1 million jobs. We felt that today was the appropriate occasion for us to give you a detailed explanation of what this vision entails. And so you've heard it. If you have any questions, you can raise up your hand. We'll take your question. I will answer a few questions and then do a brief summary of this presentation in the Twi language for purposes of the account stations which are here. Let me humbly appeal to all of us to observe some.
You had the Communications Officer of the National Democratic Congress, Sami Gyamfi, there obviously explaining why they had this press conference. It's the 14th of a series of weekly press briefings, and this one has been on jobs. They've been explaining their Operation 1 million jobs, and he mentioned that they will create a minimum of 250 jobs every year in the next 4 years. There in the shots behind me is my colleague Kweku Asante, who's asking a question. We'll bring you details of that response later. But now shortly though, Daniel Dazi standing by with more news on JoyNews today. Thanks for your company.